What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be going over what press release you should use in given situations. So this is going to be kind of like a quiz-style video, so if you're not familiar with our quiz-style videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a pre-snap look like the one we have on the screen right here. I'm going to give you guys a situation like, hey, this is the route that we're going to be running, this is the coverage that we have. What press release would you probably use in this situation? Then I'll give you guys a chance to pause the video, think about your answer, and then we'll break down why your answer is right or wrong, okay? So this first example here, this wide receiver is going to be running a 10-yard out, and we have an outside shade press coverage look right up on the line of scrimmage, not really giving us much room to breathe here. So in this situation, you guys, this press coverage, we have to run a 10-yard out versus this look. What press release do you guys think you would use in this situation? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So if I have outside shade press, and obviously I have to run a 10-yard out, I'm not going to be giving him any type of release that gives like a move to the inside. So I'm not going to be doing like a crossover, not going to be doing a quick jab to the inside, because remember, this DB's leverage, he's outside, right? So his goal is don't let the wide receiver get to the outside, force everything to the inside where he probably has help, but he will not get beat to the outside. That's his responsibility. So on this 10-yard out, I have to take an inside release. Now, since he's right up in my grill, right up on the line of scrimmage, we don't really have many options here other than something called either a wide step with your back foot. Some people might refer to it as a jab step, and it is more of a lateral wide step or jab step, and we'll explain why. So I'm going to play this example full speed, and then we'll break it down. So this receiver, it's a perfect example. Literally perfect example of how to get that DB to freeze and take the inside release and then work a throw by at the top. But obviously, so we want to threaten his leverage. That's always my goal when I'm going up against press coverage, is to threaten his leverage. Make him think that we were trying to run to the outside, because that's what's going to move him off of his platform. So this wide step is from this receiver's back foot. Now he uses something called a prep step with his front foot to give him a little bit more speed. This prep step is literally just like a step in place. Some people might refer to it as a false step. It's not really a false step. You just pick your foot up and put it down, and you are pushing off of this foot to throw your hip into the jab step with your back foot, or the wide step. Now, since he's right up on the line, that move can't go vertical, because then you're going to run into him. You're going to run into hand contact. We need to step almost more so lateral, like I'm doing a crossover in basketball in a sense. And so he steps lateral. His hips, his shoulders, his head, and his step are all going in that direction. That's what holds that DB, and then he's able to take that inside release. So if you guys set a more so lateral jab step, wide step to the outside in this situation, that would be 100% correct. Now, this same release could work if this DB was like a yard away. If he was a yard away, we could do this exact same release, but instead of that step being more flat, we would want to go more vertical, because we want to close the space and get onto this DB's toes. So when I take my inside release, if we close the distance with him, it's easier for me to get skinny, aka run tight to the DB, aka try to stack over the top of him where he is trailing behind me. So let me play this thing full speed. Great job with that lateral wide step, and then working that throw by move at the top of the break. So now, next route situation here is going to be from CeeDee Lamb, and he is going to be running a post route versus this specific coverage. But before we get into this example, you guys, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback watching this video and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches, we are going to be traveling out, guys, to 9 more cities across the entire country this offseason for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camp. So guys, go to that very first link in the description below if you would like to sign up. Our next camp is going to be in Seattle, Washington. Then the next one will be in Chicago, Newark, Birmingham, Houston, Boston, Columbus, Boise, and Los Angeles. Now guys, all of these camps, our Seattle camp is completely sold out, but we do have a wait list. So if you guys would like to contact us to get on that wait list, let us know. Go to the very first link in the description below, and there is an email there. Now, the rest of our camps from Chicago all the way to Los Angeles, they only have about 6 to 8 spots remaining. So if you guys would like to be one of those 6 to 8 athletes in attendance, go to that very first link in the description below. That's where you can sign up. We'd love to have you there. Now, again, guys, we limit spots at these camps, so each athlete can get individualized coaching and individualized attention. We can't have everybody who watches our YouTube channel there, just simply because it's too many people and nobody will get any coaching. The goal of this is to obviously coach you guys and help you improve your skills. So fellas, very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you there. Let's get back to this video. So now let's talk about this post route versus this look. So in this situation, guys, we have inside shade catch technique. Catch technique is where the DB is about 2 to 3 yards away. Now we have inside shade catch technique, and we have to run a 10 to 12 yard post route. So in this specific situation, guys, what press release do you guys think you would use. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So we have inside shade catch technique, 2 to 3 yards away. As a wide receiver, what we would want to do in this situation is we would want to close the space for this 2 to 3 yard point, give some type of a move to the inside, and then take the outside release and work to stack him. Now, the release that you guys can use, there are a million different releases you can use on this. I would be a fan, like me personally, like, and this is kind of what CeeDee Lamb does here initially, and you'll see this, is like, I call it like a punch crossover release, which is where you take your back foot and you step hard. Like, you almost like step forward with it too, where your toes are even with your heels, and then you push off of that back foot, reach with your front foot, and that will help you close the space with this DB. And when you close the space and get to his toes, then you can make some type of crossover move to the inside, get him to jump, and then take that outside release. That's the key on this move. Now, also the reason why we would punch and reach is because we can be gathering info. Anytime that I have a DB who's about 2 to 3 yards away and you close space with him, you're gathering info. You're seeing how he is going to ultimately play you. So maybe we close the space with him and he jumps to the outside. Then what would I do? I'd take the inside release. So that's what you have to keep in mind when you're facing catch technique, and that's kind of what CeeDee Lamb ultimately faces here. So he pushes off the ball, attacks him. DB just kind of freezes. So he's running a post route. We don't always have to release to the outside on a post route if I don't have to, nor, like, preferably we'd want an inside release. So if I could get to the inside, I'm going to take it. So there's no way to know that pre-snap, so don't worry if you didn't get that aspect of the answer right. But if your thought process was, I'm going to close the space and attack his leverage and then try to get right past him and stack, that's what CeeDee Lamb was probably thinking here. But when he closed the space, watch what he does. First step is with his back foot, pushes. He does more of like a hop step, which is totally fine. But if that DB just sits and we square up with him and we feel like we could take the inside, let's just take the inside. Take what he gives us. That's a good example of that from CeeDee Lamb. But if you guys said you would close the space with your release and get onto his toes, that would be 100% correct. Great example there from CeeDee Lamb. All right, so now, next example here. This is going to be kind of a two-part question. Now, this is a similar look to what we just saw. This is catch technique about 2 to 3 yards away, but it's head-up catch technique. And Amari Cooper is going to be running a 15 back to 12 comeback route. Remember, a comeback route goes back towards the sideline. A curl goes towards the quarterback, comeback goes back towards the sidelines. Two-part question. What release would you guys use versus this specific coverage? Number two, on a comeback, and this is kind of like a bonus question, would you guys want to stack the DB or keep him right on your inside hip as you're pushing vertical to 15? So what release would you guys use here? And would you want to stack the DB or would you want to keep him right on your inside hip? So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So this DB is 2 to 3 yards away. So obviously, just like that CeeDee Lamb example, we want to close the space with him. We want to get right to his toes and give him some type of hard fake to the inside, right? That's what's going to move him off the platform. That's what's going to get him to jump. And then we want to take the outside release. Now, a lot of times, every single route, wide receivers are like, always, I want to stack, I want to stack. I always want to stack, where that DB trails behind and is chasing our back hip. We don't want to do that on a comeback. Reason why we don't want to do that on a comeback is because on a comeback, that's a sharp 45-degree angle break. And when I get up to that 15-yard mark to where I'm going to drop my hips, you can't be stacked when you drop your hips, because when you drop your hips, that DB is going to run into us, and then he could easily play the route. So you want to keep him right on your inside hip. So it's important that I close the space, but when I push back up vertical, I'm trying to stay hip to hip with this DB. So let's watch Amari Cooper here. He does that same like punch release with that back foot. Notice how he doesn't stack. He keeps some space between him and the DB. You don't necessarily have to go that wide. I think Amari Cooper gets away with it because he's Amari Cooper. But watch what he does with his back foot on this release. Similar to what I was talking about. Takes a step. He does more of like the hop step like CeeDee Lamb as well, but he punches off the back foot, hops to close the space, gives that move. But notice how right here his goal is not to stack him. If he was running a post route, absolutely that would be our goal. If we were running a fade route, absolutely that would be our goal. But because it's a comeback, we don't necessarily have to get to that point. Great route there by Amari Cooper, and great example of what release to use versus head-up catch when you have to run that comeback route.